Tate's advice for guys below 6 feet.
It's absolutely ridiculous to go through life wishing you're something you're not. The chessboard is the chessboard. It doesn't matter if you're 5'9", 5'7", 5'2". That's who you are. So you can be the best version of yourself and own it, or you can become an insecure bitch about it.
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, I do, because I just find it extraordinary that you would think the Holocaust could ever be something that we could joke about.
Why, too soon? And, you know, we're just tired of saying these kinds of things. We want to talk like real people and give our honest opinions. And then we literally get an old Jewish guy from England who's going to say, oh, that's very funny, mate. Me mom. And it's like, shut up. Like, you know, no one is in favor of genocide. So let's just get that out of the way. We're not in favor of a Holocaust or genocide.
Whoever names the problem wins. In an age defined by euphemism and denial, the first act of power is simply naming the problem as it is. People experience reality directly. Institutions, politicians, and corporations distort, soften, and filter language. But voices that match language to experience are the ones that tend to gain influence. If language aligns with experience, influence follows. There are deep psychological bases for this. People want to be heard before they want solutions. Self-validation theory essentially states that the more people perceive a thought as valid or appropriate to use, the more they rely on it in judgment and action. This is not about accuracy, it's about perceived validity of the thought itself. There are, of course, social reward mechanisms, neural circuits associated with reward and respond to social affirmations such as likes, similar to other forms of reward learning. Studies also show a general tendency towards reliance on external approval in social media context, indicating a measurable drive for validation. There have also been studies suggesting that authenticity correlates with well-being. Expressing oneself consistently with one's self-view on social media is correlated with higher life satisfaction itself. People don't want advice, they want confirmation that their experience is real. Research shows that our brains treat social validation as a reward, similar to primary rewards like food or money. Validation-seeking behaviors are observable and measurable in digital contexts. The first prime example, and pretty infamous at this point, is Andrew Tate, but what he names is even more important. He boldly frames male frustration, disposability, and personal agency into his own language. He rejects euphemism and speaks bluntly about his experience and status. In August 2022, Tate was banned from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for violating platform policies, but that obviously didn't stop him. His clips were absolutely everywhere, even after his bans. Although it could be argued that some of his clips did return revenue for some of his users through his referral links in his classes, it was clear that that was not the only reason for his success and influence. Even when mainstream platforms removed his channels, his language persists across networks and reposts. The next infamous name is Nick Fuentes. He directly calls out elite hypocrisy, social tension, and cultural anxieties in a straightforward, albeit forbidden, manner. Fuentes has been banned from many mainstream platforms since 2020 due to policy violations related to hate speech. He was even banned on DLive after January 6th, the Capitol protest. In addition, he was of course removed from YouTube, Twitch, Reddit, and Twitter/X. Even more impressive is that he was also debanked and removed from financial services like PayPal, Venmo, Patreon, Shopify, Stripe, and other services. Unlike Tate, Fuentes' clips did make a comeback, despite having no financial compensation for the people who did repost them, since these posts could get the accounts who posted them banned immediately and didn't seem to include any referrals that at least I'm aware of. Fuentes illustrates that when mainstream channels shut down direct outlets, alternative infrastructures sprout, carrying language forward. The problems that these two were talking about were not addressed, so their language persisted on because the problems continued on despite the censorship. Another interesting figure who has survived many eras of history is Karl Marx. He named systemic class dynamics and power relations acutely. One of his famous formations include: the worker becomes all the poorer, the more wealth he produces. The worker becomes an ever cheaper commodity the more commodities he creates. Saying things like this was absolutely unprecedented for his time, and Marx's framing of capitalism and class dynamics referenced over a century after his death in academic, political, and cultural contexts. In a similar manner, radical Marxist texts were censored and suppressed at various times, including the late 19th century bans on Das Kapital in parts of Europe, and political censorship around communist literature in the early 20th century United States and other anti-communist periods. Marx's naming of conditions continued to shape debates long after his death, showing that naming the structural problems can outlive eras and contexts. In the modern era, in digital communication environments, the first voice to name a problem frequently and acutely sets the frame for how the discussions unfold. These algorithm-powered platforms work via search, likes, shares, retention, and amplification signals, privileging phrases that match user queries and engagement patterns. This, of course, also happens in workplaces and politics, where language has operational power. In digital spaces, language doesn't just reflect reality, it organizes attention and signals significance before reality shifts. The first person to name a problem accurately defines the debate. Due to the psychological factors we named before, such as desire for like and upvotes as external validation, and positive social feedback on social media confirms two principles of reward learning. Behavior increases when rewards are present. The feedback mechanisms of modern platforms mean voices that name problems acutely get more mechanical amplification. Censorship alone cannot stop this. Notice the pattern. When these figures are removed, people and problems don't disappear. The language doesn't disappear. Most importantly, the experience themselves don't disappear. Tate was removed from all major platforms in 2022, but his framing of male disposability spread faster after his removal through reposts, clips, and imitators. Fuentes lost access to mainstream platforms and payment rails, yet his rhetoric simply migrated to parallel infrastructures built around the same language. Even after Marx's death, his work continued across countries and eras. Yet, his descriptions of work and inequality survived every ban and outlived every regime that tried to suppress them. Censorship operates on distribution, but influence lives at the level of description. Once a problem has a name, it no longer needs an author. Naming a problem creates an alignment before any conversation about solutions begins. Influence comes from matching language to experience, not necessarily from solving the problem. In a system that treats raw acknowledgement as a reward, perception wins before prescription. More often than not, the real question isn't who has the best solution, it's who gets to define the reality being discussed.